Hello everybody, this is Gail from Burger Sewing and Vacuum, and today I'm going to talk about half square triangles. Half square triangles are really fun. You can do all kinds of great things with them. Here's one that I did with a layer cake, and I made these little pinwheels. I just had a couple pieces left, and this is a cute little table runner, so you can do something fun like that. This is a little quilt that I did before with all of my half square triangles. I was going to talk about them because they look easy, but in order to get them to look really nice, you have to take a couple extra steps than you may think. This is the first one of that other one that I did. And I thought, oh, I cut out so exact, and I sewed so precisely. Certainly I don't need to square up my triangles. But you notice that I never finished this one, because if you look on the back, and you may not be able to see it, but there are some spots where I kind of wandered around. So this is more than a 1/4 inch, this is less than a 1/4 inch, to try and make sure that I ended right on my points, so I didn't cut off my points or have too much fabric. And if you look on the ends here, make sure they're in the camera, some of these are going to be more than a 1/4 inch and some may be less than a 1/4 inch, and it is just not consistent. And that is because even though I tried really hard to cut it out exactly, and I tried really hard to make sure that all my 1/4 inches were perfect, they're not so much. This one turned out much better. Everything was as it should be. So that's my example of what not to do. So the ways after you do your triangles or your half square triangles, you really need to square them up. And if you look at this one, you can see that this is not real straight, that's not real straight, and I should have gone and straightened them out before I sewed them together. This one I did square up, and this one is ready to be squared up. And I was going to show you a fun way to do this. Now the way I like to do half square triangles, I have a ruler that has that tells me how big a piece I need to start out with to get the size half square triangles when it's done. This is called the triangle square up ruler that I'm going to show you today, and it also has, this is the finished size, this is how big a square you need to cut up, and I'm sideways for you, so I have to go this way. And it tells me everything if I want to do just the 2, if I want to do 4, I'm going to do 8, and I'm sure if you went out and you Googled it, you could probably say, if I want to do 8 at a time, what size square do I need to start out with? Because I know I have a different ruler, I can't remember the name of it, that actually tells me that. But this is with a layer cake. Now this fabric was one that I bought years and years ago. And then when I put it on my mat, I noticed that it was about 10 1/4 one way and 10 inches the other way. So sometimes even those ones that we buy that are professionally cut may not be exact. So anyway, I had to cut that to make sure that it was 10 inches by 10 inches. Then what I do is I draw my diagonals from corner to corner, corner to corner, and then I also go, and since it's 10 inches, there's 5 inches and 5 inches. If all goes well, they should meet in the middle. They don't always, but sometimes they do. And then what I did is I sewed 1/4 inch away from that line. So this is a sewing line, and this is a sewing line. So I wrote down sew and cut, and these are just cut lines only. This is where this little ruler comes in really handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this and I'm going to cut it. Oh, that's great when everything slides on me. Of course it'll slide when I'm on camera. Oh, this is actually really good because I messed up that cut. And I'll show you how it will still be okay. I'm probably cutting sideways from you. And then you can leave these on here if I get them. I'm going to cut right in the middle. So I'm going to cut right down the middle and try and keep this from moving this time. I'm using a small ruler today. But I do like how I don't have to stand on my head and climb around my cutting table with my little one that pivots. So these are now my half square triangles. I have 8 of them. Okay? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my half square triangles, and I'll just do a couple of them. And this is the triangle square up ruler by Quilt in a Day. Get it the right way. quilt in a day. Hopefully you can see it. And it has lines here. And so what I'm going to do is, I know that this is going to be 4.5 inches. I line the 4.5 inch line up right along that where I sewed. So it doesn't matter that I messed up that cut in between them. It doesn't matter that that's not exactly 1/4 inch because I am lining up on my stitching line. And then I just hold this down and hopefully not move anything, and my elbow's probably in the way. And I'm going to trim that up. So now this should be perfect. Let's do this one, because this one I kind of messed up over here in my cut. Once again, I get on my 4.5 inch mark right there, and look at that. That's a lot more fabric on this one than on the previous one. And, oops. Cut that away. Take all that away, and that was a lot more. But now I know that my two half square triangles are going to be exactly the same. And afterwards I'd press this way first and then press to the dark side. And now I know that these are going to be perfect. And if you want to, because sometimes we don't like those little dog ears, I like to cut those guys off. I just cut them at a little angle. And that way when I press them, I don't have that little part sticking out there. That kind of bothers me. So you can do that, and that's all you'll do is you'll go along each one of these, and yes, it's an extra step, but boy, does it make a difference. And as long as I sew in a straight line, and this is on a straight line, but look at the difference here. This is a lot more. And you may say, oh, well, what's the big deal? Well, you know, if I have a 1/16 of an inch on one, and 1/8 of an inch on another, and another 32nd inch, that adds up after a while, and that's when you're going to get your really wonky, not so great half square triangles, and your design is just not going to look as straight and as neat as it should. So that is our half square triangles, and just doing some really fun, simple things like this, just putting them together, and these were all squared up, so they went together so easily, so well. And of course, you know, just all your different ways that you can put your half square triangles together to make all kinds of wonderful patterns. So have fun. And yes, I did use the triangle square ruler. They come in 4.5, 6.5, and 9.5. I have the 9.5 because I like to do bigger ones. And so I wanted to have the bigger one because I use a lot of layer cakes. And you notice I even put the glow tape right on here so I could see my center line when I'm doing my diagonals. So until next time, happy quilting.